Welcome to the In My Opinion show. I am Henry Hatter, your guest for today. I have a great speaker today, Ron Mann. He's a Vietnam veteran, and Ron, I'd like to talk to you about how you are perceived by the public that I know. They know you as Ron Mann, the man behind the name, Mann, Ron Mann. A vintage car enthusiast. They know you also by Ron Mann, a free spirit, author, artist, and inspirational speaker. Please introduce yourself to our guest.
My name is Ronald Mann. I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I deal with a lot of PTSD. So my art has been my catalyst to keep me alive and well as I paint. And when I paint about our country and friends and everything that's happening around us, especially the veterans.
And I might add to that, Ron, you are also a supporter of the rights of people who have none, or who downplays, whose rights are downplayed. Also for the underdog, which is a remarkable basis of involvement for people who are called Americans. We need that. You make the whole country look better to all facets of people who live here. And I just want to thank you for being on the show today. And Ron, we're going to start out with one of your paintings here. Can you explain what this painting suggests?
This painting right here is us thinking about the veterans as they go away and they lose their arms or legs, and then they come back and we attempt to put them back together, and falsely sometimes that really does not happen. I mean, it takes a long time. I've been fighting PTSD since I came back from Vietnam, so this is what I figured, is I could use this guy's photograph here and show what his achievements at one time must have been football, but that was a great thing. Right?
Sure.
But after that, then you get down to the point here of where there is lots of weeping going on in our country, because we can't always fight wars that we can't win, but we have to try.
Ron, could you explain what these are tears down here?
Yes.
Right? Where are the tears coming from?
They're coming from these individuals that's got their hands crossed over their head. Yes, their hands are over their head.
Yes, okay.
And they're being.
Can our public see that?
Yes. And they're waiting for their turn to do whatever somebody is going to tell them what to do. You know what I mean? Because you're getting orders from everywhere to do different things. Mm-hmm. So these are people just waiting for their turn in line. It's almost like the Holocaust for me.
Okay. Associate that with the suffering of veterans of the Holocaust, or black people, or whomever. Can you associate that with?
Well, I mean, yeah, we can deal with actually the water crisis right here in Flint too, on the same thing here, because this whole town has been under a water crisis, and that they got to be feeling the same feeling has to come from them there, like this.
Sure.
Because you're doing that every day, so the post-traumatic stress on these people are so bad, it's unreal. It's almost like the combat zone, I would claim. It would be like being in a combat zone for over, 2 years now?
Sure.
For over 2 years, so I don't know how the people are really holding on to it.
Well, that's a good analogy. Can you explain the one behind that, man?
Yes, we'll get that.
Please explain this one.
This one here is called Mr. and Mrs. America. This is like when I was a kid and I was coming up to fight World War II, was the war of choice for the country at that time. So after I went to Vietnam and come back, I was sort of angry because things really didn't work well in Vietnam, because they preluded a war, went to fight that war, and then restricted us. And then by that time, the public was fighting with each other. The blacks and the whites were not getting along. So they opened up a big battlefield and sent all of us over there under a false pretense. So this is Mr. and Mrs. America. And Mr. and Mrs. America are donating and loaning their children to a war that was preluded for nothing. So we all went to a war and fought a war that pertained to nothing at all other than us getting our feet into another position where we had to take over to get closer to one of our other enemies. I would say that would be what they did that for. But then after you got there and they gave you the big prize, was we not only fight the war, they're going to spray you with this toxic poison called Agent Orange at the time that you're there too. So they was butchering everybody with Agent Orange, including the whole theater of war was getting sprayed with it too. So we was killing everything, not only the foliage, all of the food that was on the ground. People were eating that food. So now Vietnam is just full of dead little bad little babies with no legs, no arms.
Ron, now you say they were spraying the Agent Orange and it was killing folks or organizing them,
right,
and causing health problems to last a long time.
Yes.
But who was the people doing this?
Well,
was it the war machinery itself, or was it one side or the other?
Well, I would say that it was America to defoliate their area, would fly and spray the Agent Orange all over everything. But there was a label on there somewhere that said dioxin poisoning, and so that should have been a gift enough right there to know that was going to, and it did leave everybody with that for the rest of their lives in their bloodstream.
Do you think that this was done intentionally or done out of not knowing the science of dioxin?
I would say
dioxin
poisoning.
Yeah,
right?
Okay.
I'd say it was intentionally because
it was intentionally
because they wanted to thin down the population at that time. Was already started to explode everywhere. So we had a bunch of us over here of both colors. And they took that to take them over there and control them by spray, and they did do a lot of other kind of experiments on veterans while they was there too. Just like they did the Tuskegee. You know what I mean? So they got to do that in Vietnam too. So no, they did it on purpose, and it lasts forever. Lasts you for your life. They sprayed that, and it's a forever. It never goes away from you, and you can't get it. And it goes to your grandchildren too. So, no, they did it on purpose.
Well, now that we're talking about this, what made you, as one of the soldiers of that time, react to this in a negative way? What authority? Where'd you get your information from? You were an American soldier sent out to take orders in Vietnam.
Right.
And that was your job. Not the question of politics of the country, but to take orders. And I know you were not the only one. There was a lot of folks, including public policy people talked about it in a negative way, and so did parents and schools and new kids. But what, in your own individual perspective, what caused you to take a negative view of what we were doing in Vietnam, even though you didn't have the authority to speak against the American government?
And I didn't either. I did exactly what they told me to do when I was there. I modified a little bit of stuff, but that's the way it is, When you seen that they was only there to have you fight, it actually, I think, was really heavier into a way to try to maintain the black and the whites and try to fuse them up or defuse them one way or the other, because they really didn't care. they really didn't care how many veterans they stuck into them fields. But mainly the veterans that was going into combat were the brothers. You know, so they were angry about the whole deal too, because they was getting stuck in the forefront of the battle. You know, so then we could get along together at nighttime, and I could fly over them and protect them as much as I could when I was a door gunner. And we were friends at nighttime, but yet when it come to really loving each other, I guess we didn't do as much as we should have in Vietnam.
Speaking of that, Ron, have you ever heard of eubonics?
Sort of. Refresh me.
Well, it was a process that was used in the 30s against the black people, the black man that they introduced syphilis to in those days. And also, it was the Germans used the whole process themselves when they tried to exterminate the Jews.
Right.
Do you think that this may have been akin to that whole process?
It looks just like it. I mean, because what they did with the Agent Orange lasts forever. It's not something that you get rid of.
But there were so many whites involved.
Well, they didn't care. They didn't care either about They didn't like the blacks. But they didn't like the white boys that's there either, because they looked at them guys and they don't really need them. You know, we really don't need them there back here in the country, because the rock and roll stuff was coming up, and people were getting a freer spirit and thinking about really having a good life, and all of a sudden it was no. The good life is no.
Well, do you think the country has transitioned from that point of view, and we look at things more favorably, and blacks are more accepted today than they were in those days? Do you think we're becoming a more perfect union as the shapers of the Constitution believed?
I believe that the blacks and whites are getting along better than I ever have myself. Mm-hmm. You know, but that is only from what I see. And because I can enjoy a person around me and enjoy their brain, and they do the same with me, and we enjoy each other and camaraderie of the whole deal. But I don't think they actually want us to.
But Ron, you know, it's amazing that it has been war. As bad as war is, war has liberated black people.
Yes.
It was the Second World War when the men went into the war to defend the country, and their parents came to factories in Michigan and worked in the plants here to support the war effort, and became part of the...
Right.
As a result, became part of the middle class, which for years we thought that we were just throwaway people, homeless children.
Right.
But according to General Motors and their unions, who said that they paid top dollar, and their employees was on the top 10% of the highest wage earners in the world. So my point is that it's war, even though war killed people and stuff like that. And this may not be just unique to black Americans. It's probably unique to every culture there ever was.
Right.
And yet we don't want to have war, but why do you think war is attractive? Because it changes dynamics for everything.
Greed. Yeah, because Joe knows Jack. Jack sells ammunition, so Joe makes sure that Jack gets his share of each cut. So everybody that knows everybody gets to sit in there and take a big chunk of the American pie, the tax.
So are you saying that corporations and rich people and opportunists drive the country?
Yes.
Not the Constitution?
No, not the Constitution.
Explain.
You know what I mean?
No.
You know
Here, when you look,
because they change a law that quick. It can be a law that is good and honest one day, and within a short period of time, they'll change that law to fit what the status quo wants. You know, it's like right now in Flint, they give you a law that tells you you can house a little bit of something in your house, and then all of a sudden they change the law and start arresting people. Well, you can't do that because people want to, they don't want to fight or join, like me too, and to get off a little bit there, the people that are looking for, they have jobs. If they had a job, they would go to a job and do a job rather than hassle or hustle anything from anybody. They would all be willing to work for a living if we do it right. If we do it right.
Now, I think you referred to, we have this law that permits people to have so much, if you're ill, so much marijuana
in your house
per day or per pound or whatever they dosage it out. And I think I heard you say that now, for some reason, people are still getting arrested, even with the law has been relaxed. Where do you see the rise in arrests coming from?
I have no idea why they're arresting more of them, but
are these based on race?
Right. I looked it up on the computer, and it was Flint, and it was in the black community.
Okay.
So it's mainly in the black community.
Mm-hmm.
So they're targeting the young blacks again.
I mean, why do you think that is?
Is it because we got too many people? I mean, that's what their big gripe is. There's too many people in the world. So can we put them all in prison? No.
Well, let me ask you this question based on people looking at this and trying to glean whether they're on one side of that issue or the other. Are people following the law and getting arrested, or they have bent the law a little bit?
I think that they're actually all following the law.
Okay.
But the law changes again from day to day. And if you keep changing the law every day, then it's hard for all the people to go out there and get readjusted to a new law that they just changed yesterday because somebody else thought it was the wrong way for other people to live. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like drinking whiskey and beer. I mean, I think that we're better off if somebody smokes a little bit of weed rather than drink alcohol. You know, I mean, I think that even a person that smokes weed is willing to pay taxes on it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So the law is they want to arrest you and put you away and give you a criminal record. Then you'll never get nothing out of life, and you can never be nothing because you have that flaw. That flaw on your record is there forever. It's almost like putting a collar around your neck.
Okay, Ron, we got to move on. Please explain. Let's get back to your pictures now. We'll come back to some of this later.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We've got Mrs. America here.
Yes.
And you did explain something very poignant about that.
Yeah. Let me get rid of it, and then we'll go right to that one instead. This is called embryo. So that's after Mr. and Mrs. America. They bred this new embryo to come up for the next war.
Sure.
So that's the next war child. You know what I'm saying? Which is now we're getting ready to go to the one world order. You know, so these are the children for the new one world order that they're starting to establish on people. We can't live like that in the one world order because it doesn't work. I don't think it's going to work. You know what I mean? How could you think about like all the ones that just came from Syria?
Yes.
The refugees. These are what they are. War children. The refugees are just mass driving up there, running away, getting away from the crush of their leader that's there. And we should fight there. If we're going to fight, is fight to get them back into a stable situation. And they're not going to. They're not doing it.
Well, do you mean in their own countries?
If possible. If possible. I mean, because look at China. China's got we don't want to send them all to China and let them go into those big high rises that China's got all built from our money they took from us. So they got big high rises all built and cities all built. We could take all them and send them over to China and let them live there in China for a while. But I think they love their homeland.
Okay, now you don't hold the Americans responsible for the world order. That is a thing that grows out of who we are collectively around the world.
Right.
That's what you mean.
Right.
Okay. Can we see another one?
Yes. Then after you send them to war like that, and you bring them back, they all end up with this PTSD again. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So post-traumatic syndrome.
Yeah, post-traumatic syndrome, stress disorder. Mm-hmm. Not even syndrome. They call it stress disorder.
This says a reptilian brain.
The reptilian brain.
What does that mean?
That means that we have them sensors into us that are still primitive.
Okay.
So that's what they're sort of talking about. So this reptilian brain.
Sure.
It feeds on PTSD. Mm-hmm. It must. You know what I mean?
What likely to be the income of a person who attacks? Do they attack other people or what? There's nothing wrong with the reptilian brain as long as you're not violent, right?
Right. I don't know whether they.
Well, and we want people to act as human beings, but you're contrasting this to people that have caused a pathetic, helpless situation for the rest of their lives.
In essence, yes, it is. That's what it is. No matter how you look at it, when you send somebody out to do a job, and all of a sudden the job it turns out to be the nastiest job in the world, and your name gets to be out there known as a baby killer or what they called guys from Vietnam. But that's the same thing that we're dealing with now, and them guys all come back from each one of these wars. They have their own war thing that is in their bodies, and they're doing the same thing that the Vietnam veteran did. They're trying to, but they're running these new guys 3 and 4 tours at a time. You can't run people with 3 or 4 tours of killing people and expect them to come back and be normal.
But those people do that by choice, don't they?
No, I think they do it by when the society takes school and turns school into a place where you have to pay big amounts of money to go to school, and then there's no jobs around, so you end up in the military as nothing but a way to make a living, and then you're stuck.
Well, let me ask you this real quickly because our time is coming short. Do you believe that women should be in the military?
I believe that women should be in the military, and if they want to pull what you would call a hard duty, that should be their choice.
But do you have compassion for women who get? Well,
I do have compassion for them because they're mainly only there because they're in there trying to get their education so they can come back and get the American dream, which is a beautiful job and living on a nice block.
So you don't have any objections to that?
No.
And besides, women now with all of the smart bombs and smartphones, they can do anything and never come within the proximity of the enemy and take them out. Right?
Right.
So it's an easy job now.
Easy job, different job.
Okay, can we look at the last picture here?
Yes. That was called The Unknown Soldier.
I like that.
The Unknown Soldier.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Yes, I mean, that's everybody that goes to war. Mm-hmm. And they all wear this helmet of life right there that they have on.
Okay.
You know, so I just painted that there so I could get rid of that feeling of being the only soldier. I wasn't the only soldier. I was one of the soldiers during this war. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yes.
Out of multiple other legions of people that go to the military, this represents that.
Yes. Well, for me, it does.
Now, let me jump very quickly to another facet here. Do you think that Americans have come to? We live in a time when Americans have come to a point where they can't govern themselves. in Congress because Congress cannot agree to work in unison to carry on the business for the American people. Look at how we are today. Comment on that.
We're scattered. We're just all scattered out because every time that we go into a new metamorphosis, like a metamorphosis, things change. It takes Congress and stuff so long to do anything that by the time they get done with it, there's a new idea that isn't even better. It's better than the idea they had when they was trying to put the idea down. So you've got them. So no, you can't really trust Congress to do the job. They're too slow now. We're in the computer age now. Things are faster and
that's
faster.
what's happening in the country today,
yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
And the president is making a lot of decisions that informally would go through the Congress to be made.
Right. Right.
Well,
quick decisions.
Do you think that we live in a time when Americans need to make a choice as to whether we're going to live by reflection and choice or by force and by force?
I think we're actually living by force right now.
That would be a point where we have an autocratic government that will dictate to us how we're going to live. And we're going through the political process, democratic process, but are we going to shorten that down so that we will reach a point where we will become molten into, say, an oligarchy? We either got to go one side of the spectrum as we go toward the socialist side because we were drained down a treasury. And the other side, and both of these elements are represented as we look at our political situation today. The other side would be the oligarchy, the power of people with money to run the government. Do you think we're coming to a time that we're going to have to decide between the two?
I mean, it's almost right there right now, isn't it, actually?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Right. I mean, it's the oligarchy right now, as far as I'm concerned. It's just money. It's the, it's just what the amount of money that these guys are doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you can't even get a bank to actually have the right amount of money so you can go to the bank and get your money out of the bank now, you got to call the bank, tell the bank that you're coming to get $3,000. They want to know where that money's at and why are you coming to get $3,000 from the bank.
Well,
so we're stuck right now.
This is what you see evolving right now.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
Is that, which one do you think would be the best?
Actually, neither one of them. I don't think that either one of them would be the best. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you see, when you drain the treasury, you will make us less than a third world country.
Well, yeah. Well, outside the block, inside the block, it's already a third world.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Huh?
Yes. Yes, that you're right. Well, Ron, I wish I could talk more, but I'm sorry that time has come to an end. And but you're going to come back, right?
Yes.
And you're going to bring some more of your pictures.
Yes, I will.
We're going to still talk about public policy. We're going to talk about human rights, and we're going to talk about the Vietnam War.
Yes.
My guest has been Ron Mann today, and we must now bring the show to a close. Until next time.